All right, before we start our show, I just want to give a shout out to, first of all, the Press Play Podcast Network, who we are a part of. So special thanks to them, but also special thanks to our sponsors. Bella Freight, if you have any kind of load, big, small, cars, trees, tractors, supplies, that you need to go from one place in the country to another, whether you're going from Ohio to beautiful Florida, California to New York, Bella Freight's your company. They can get it there, whatever you need. You have a small house you need to move, call Bella Freight. Give them a call today. They will get the job done the best way possible. I also like to give a special shout out to the Loft at Peck's Hall. If you have a wedding, a bar mitzvah, I don't know, you just want to have a party. You have something to do. You need a place. A special Thanksgiving event, socially distanced, give them a call. Peck's Hall, the Loft at Peck's Hall in quaint little downtown Circleville. It's on the third floor, overlooking all the pretty little pumpkins that are carved on the walls all over the town. Beautiful, beautiful little area, beautiful event, beautiful place. Elevator to get to the third floor. You don't even have to walk up the stairs. You just jump in that elevator, go straight to the Loft at Peck's Hall, and have your event. So if you need a place for a large family like Shipe's for Thanksgiving this year, go to the Loft at Peck's Hall, have a great time, and try not to fight. And don't eat too much turkey. Don't eat too much turkey this year. This is not the year for too much turkey. But enjoy your time at Loft at Peck's Hall. The best place to find them is on Facebook. So search for them, search for that name, and you will find them there.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jacobs! Holy Buckeye! Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast, and we are part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Tim Jones is a Florida Gator fan. I'm an Ohio State fan, and we are going to be talking about college football, Florida Gators, Ohio State, and everything in between for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Thank you so much for being a part of or just listening to our show. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate our sponsors. You can find us on Facebook. Check out the Tim and Shipe Show. Give us a like, follow, comment, whatever you feel like you may want to do to help support the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Tim Jones, how you living, sir?
I mean, I'm good. I'm excited. I think this weekend we may actually have some real football again.
Yeah. I know last weekend we did, so I don't know what your problem was.
I have never gotten more yard work done in my life than I have in the last 2 weeks.
Good to have the Gators back for sure, no doubt about it.
No, this was actually, there were some pretty fun games this weekend, but I really did get a crazy amount of work done around the house because I couldn't sit still because my Gators weren't playing.
Did you watch the Buckeyes?
I missed the beginning. I missed that first drive by Nebraska. I admitted that to you. I did miss that, but I did watch most of the game while I was mulching and edging and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I did watch most of the game. It was actually, from what I saw, was pretty much what you kind of predicted. Slow start, and then just taking over in the second half.
Yeah. We can just dive in right into the Buckeyes. I'm really glad that we're doing this today because Sunday I almost texted you and said, let's just do it because I was all fired up. But I've had a few days to gain some perspective and understanding, watch some film on the game, and I don't feel as bad today. So here's my initial impression, and I posted about this on our Facebook page, was that there are some major flaws with this team, which I think there were, and I think it was clear that there were. When you have two different running backs who people were hyping as both were good enough to be the starter, and on several occasions, 3rd and 1, and they can't get the 1 yard line. Can't get the 1 yard. It takes Justin Fields doing quarterback sneaks on 4th down to get him. And Justin Fields was our leading rusher the entire game. And so the running game stood out to me. And Steele Chambers, our third-string running back, was the only one who seemed to be seeing the holes and hitting them with confidence. He had the best game on his 4 carries than the other did. They had 12, 13 carries, 11, 12, somewhere around there for the Trey Sermon and Master Teague. I think in the first drive, Master Teague had 5 carries for 6 yards. Trey Sermon at times looked like he was running in sand. Like he does not seem to be a very fast guy. And the offensive line, they were opening up holes sometimes, but other times they were not. And I was extremely discouraged. But that wasn't even the most discouraging part of the entire game. The most discouraging part of the entire game was our defense. That first quarter, that first half, and even in the second half. I mean, they didn't score points in the second half. They scored 3 points the entire second half. But they were moving the ball. I mean, they had 200-plus yards rushing in that game, and they had 2 quarterbacks who could run the ball. And our defense wasn't quick to fill the gaps. We weren't shedding blocks, and it was hard to watch. The rushing game, they're getting to the second, third levels. And I put a post out there on Facebook that talked, like I said, this defense is looking a lot like 2018. They need to strap it up. They need to tighten things up. And they did. In the second half, things calmed down a little bit, and they were shedding the blocks. And so my 2 biggest worries, I was able to calm myself down a little bit, take a breather. When you watch the game again, you notice how much of a difference no crowd makes. And because, I mean, the defenders are able to jump the count without crowd noise. They hear it better. And I don't know, the senses are higher or something because they're able to jump the count. And so we had linebackers that were selling out to the run every single time. And so that's why Justin Fields was able to be our leading rusher because they were selling out to the running backs. And so I had a little bit of peace of mind there. I think we're going to see more Steel Chambers and less Trey Sermon. I was not impressed with Trey Sermon at all. It was like I said, it was like he was running in sand up until the line and he wasn't hitting the holes. It was like before he even got to the line of scrimmage, the hole that was there closed in on him. So I think we're going to see more Steel Chambers, less Trey Sermon, and Master Teague, man. If there's not a hole that's as big enough for a truck to drive through, that guy's not seeing it. The holes are closing in on him. There's not even that the holes are closing in on him. He just has no vision. He doesn't see where the hole is. And so I don't know. The running game still worries me, but I think that we're going to recover and make corrections.
Overall, I mean, can we agree that a lot of that was game planning too? They were saying we're going to make this passing game beat us.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake.
Well, of course, but you have to pick your poison, right? Like you have to choose.
Yeah.
How you're willing to give up yards, and I think they were like, well, let's test this offense in the passing game and shut down the running game because I mean that's been one of Ohio State's biggest strengths over the past several years has been their running game and their defensive line, and I think that's might be 2 areas that they're a little down this year.
Yeah. Which
you kind of mentioned that welcome to the real world of not having a Chase Young and the Bosa brothers. I mean, this is what the rest of college football has been dealing with for the last few years while you guys were in your little dream world. And now it's like, we have average talent on this line because these elite guys that can do it by themselves and get triple teamed and still get a sack.
Yeah, here's another discouraging part about the defense is our best defensive lineman this last week. I don't know, things may change as the season goes on, but our best defensive lineman this last week was Haskell Garrett, who is coming off 6 weeks ago getting shot in the face.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, literally getting shot in the face 6 weeks ago, and he is our best defensive lineman. So there's just a lot of cause for concern. But, yeah, Jonathan Cooper didn't stand out the way he did. He graded out as a champion, so the coaches were seeing that he was doing his job. He was sealing the edges. He must have been doing what the coaches asked because he graded out as a champion this week. Haskell Garrett got the Defensive Player of the Week. So just a lot to be desired from this Ohio State defense. I am ready this week. I think Penn State is going to be ready. I don't think it's going to be they're going to fall apart. This is time to save our season mode for Penn State. And so they are going to be ready and they are going to be hungry. So we need to clean up a lot. And I don't know. We'll get into that Penn State-Indiana game, but Penn State is still a good team. They are still a strong team, big, fast. They have recruited well. Indiana was – we'll get into the Indiana game. I keep trying to jump it, but yeah.
Two things I want to ask you about from this game against Nebraska. One, are you okay with them not kneeling down at the end of the game? I know the coach of Nebraska, Scott Frost, was pretty upset about that for sportsmanship reasons.
He wasn't that upset. Ryan Day apologized, and he said, if we want the score to be different, we got to play better, is what his response was, from what I saw.
Well, he did. I don't know if it was one interview that he gave or one question that he gave at the press conference that he was upset and just saying that you don't do that, I guess, basically.
Right.
So are you okay with him doing that?
Driving it in? Boy, I think so. Did you see the entire drive?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think we were trying to necessarily like punch it in. It was trying to run out the clock. It was a freshman quarterback, his first drive of his college career. And it's hard to say, stop playing, I've always been the proponent of it's the defensive's job to stop you. It's not your job to feel bad for them but I mean, I guess I can understand both ways.
I would have been okay with it if Ryan Day's excuse hadn't been, we didn't have the personnel in to kneel. What does that mean? You don't have the personnel in? Come on. You can snap the ball and just fall. You don't have to have, you know what I mean? That's just say, we just want to get this quarterback some reps. That's all you have to say. You don't have to make that. That's not the excuse to make. That's my only issue.
So you're okay with the fact that they drove it in and didn't take it?
I don't care. I would say we have a freshman quarterback. I want to give him some reps. I want to give him some playing time. We're playing Penn State next week. If our quarterback gets hurt, what do we have left? We have to get these guys some experience. Say that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But don't blame it on the personnel you have in the game. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But I think that it was, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's exactly what you said. It's getting reps. It's, letting your freshman quarterback get a touchdown. And he may not – so there's been a big controversy of who's going to be the backup. Is it going to be C.J. Stroud or is it going to be Jack Miller? And it looks like as of last week, Jack Miller was the guy who got the nod. So but I think next week if it's a blowout again, I think it's going to go to C.J. I don't think that it was necessarily him showing his hand. I think it was just maybe he was standing closest to the coach. I don't know.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a freshman in high school, I'd always stand close to the coach in case he needed somebody I could run in really fast.
How'd that go for you?
Not well. He always named a person. So I just ended up walking around with coach the whole game.
Nice. You're the water boy?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask you about was I've got to ask you about targeting, man. They're
headhunters, man. So here's I'm probably going off a different direction than what you think, but Nebraska was headhunting. I don't know if you saw it, if you noticed that, but even in a normal game, you don't get you should have had 3 targeting penalties. They had 2. They should have had 3. But Nebraska was straight up headhunting that game. And that's another reason why a lot of Ohio State fans were like, yeah, we should have punched it in and gone for 2. If they're going to go at our wide receivers that way, we, no mercy shown. But yeah, I do think that it was almost like they were being taught to go for the head almost.
I couldn't disagree more. Even the announcers on that second targeting call were like, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? I don't think he was trying to target. I don't think he was trying to hit him with his helmet. I think it was the way the guy was turning, he ran into him. This is the exact opposite perspective you're taking on Clemson.
Oh, no. For Clemson, that was one time, and Trevor Lawrence knelt into it.
It's 2 times. 2 different games where you said he did the same thing, And he's
Yeah.
trying to get
Well,
this on
I'm just
purpose.
talking about Ohio State. So like when they played Ohio State, because I didn't watch the other one. I don't know if there was more targeting. I was just saying Ohio State, one targeting call, and Trevor Lawrence leaned into it. But this one, there could have been several more targeting penalties called because it was like their DBs were headhunting and they were, and that first one, it's like he moved his head down almost like specifically to crack him in the head. And on the other one, the second one, it was bang, bang. I don't know if I would have called that. Like, I don't know what you could do there. But then Chris Olave, when he was sandwiched between those guys, they looked like they were going in to injure him. Like they were playing undisciplined football is what it seemed to me. And it killed them. It's how Ohio State was able to run away with it.
Well, in general, I hate that rule. I think that is the worst rule ever in college football. Like, hands down, I'm not overreacting. I felt this way for a long time. Like, I keep thinking it's going to get better. Like, maybe they'll adjust it. I mean, I hate that rule.
I mean, I agree with Joel Klatt. Like, I like the idea of getting rid of that lunge, where they just shoot their body right into their head, shoot the heads right in the head. Like, I want to get rid of that.
That's a dangerous play. I totally agree.
Yeah. But I do think that there should be tiers of it, and it shouldn't be an automatic one-game ejection if it's incidental like what we saw. So I love Joel Klatt's idea of it being a tiered thing where it's like the first time, if it's incidental, it's a 15-yard penalty. If it continues or if it's egregious, you're out for the game. Like that's how it should be. But it's I think the NCAA likes things black and white, which is why they did away with the two face masks penalty, the incidental versus egregious, however they called it. But
they don't want to put the game in the hands of the referee to make that make that determination. I get it, but I hate it. Like this is a terrible thing for, especially like I said, that second one where I don't know what else he could have done. He wasn't trying to go helmet to helmet. The guy, it was just one of those incidental ways someone's turning and leaning and the way. I mean,
he's a small guy. And so the way his head, the way his body cracked back on that hit, made it look worse than. Well, I mean, it was a great hit, but it made it look more dangerous than what it was.
And I wasn't even sure he hit with his helmet. Like, you know what I mean? Like the way he hit, I wasn't even sure he didn't hit his helmet into his shoulder, and then that shouldn't be a penalty if that's the case. So it was tough. I understand safety. I get it. I don't like the way that game. Not the game, just the rule in that game specifically happened on that second one. I was like, man, and I guess Joel didn't make it any better because he also was like, come on, like that. What's he supposed to do? He was all fired up about it too.
He was all fired up. So I guess my final thoughts on this Ohio State game. Yes, we won by 35, 52-17 is nothing to be like down about. But for some reason, this was the most discouraging 52-17 win I've ever seen. And it all comes back to what we talked about last week about having the expectations for a team. Like if Arkansas comes in and wins 52-17, like they're throwing parties in the street, like that's a great win. But for Ohio State, 52-17 is the expected score. I'm not disappointed with the score. It was just how it looked. And it could just be them. I mean, they haven't really hit for 10 months or something like that. I mean, they haven't, and I mean, they hit in practice for a couple weeks, but it may have just been them settling in, getting used to contact. That's why you get caught up on blocks because you're not ready to hit back, or you're not, you're just getting the feel for it. So, I mean, there are a lot of reasons why it could be. We'll wait and see about this Penn State game, how it's going to turn out.
Well, you told me you asked me a few weeks ago if I thought it was an advantage or disadvantage that Ohio State got these extra weeks of practice. And I think this answered your question right here.
Yeah.
The scrimmaging, the practice field is just not the same. And so this is where you miss. I mean, honestly, I'm just going to say Ohio State is lucky their schedule changed and they didn't play Oregon this week, because I think Oregon would have been a much more competitive game. And I'm not saying they would have lost because I don't know how good Oregon is, but I'm just saying, in a normal season, this would be a different situation. And I think they worked out well in their favor to play Nebraska to start out with. And it's a little bit of a build-up game. And I think Ohio State's going to get better. They're going to iron a lot of these things out. Yeah. They're going to get the run game going. So I think they'll be fine by the end of the season. But this is a good judge of where they are at this point in the season. But it's early.
Yeah. And I think Penn State, if you needed to get used to hitting, it was nice that you had last week because Penn State is absolutely going to hit you right in the mouth. They are going to headhunt, and you're going to get smacked in the mouth, and you are going to see what you're made of next week because they're going to be ready for you.
And I'm going to say Penn State losing to Indiana might have been the worst thing that happened to Ohio State this year.
Yeah, worst.
Because now Ohio State is facing a team who's motivated. They are up against the wall.
Yep.
They can't afford to lose another game or they're out. Their season's over.
Right.
So they're going to come hitting hard, motivated, playing well. I don't think Ohio State will let down, but if they look at that game like, oh, they lost. Those coaches better keep those players ready to go.
Yeah, I heard a commentator in Columbus this week say that he thinks, again, that Penn State is not very good, and he's looking at another 52-17 victory against Penn State, and that is not the mindset that this team needs to be taking.
No.
They need to bring it every single week because we saw, Indiana beat Penn State. It could happen any week to anyone. You have to be ready.
Well, especially this year. There is no automatic anything this year. It just isn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I have bad news, Shipe.
Oh, no.
So the Florida game this weekend, the time moved to 7:30.
Oh, really?
Both of our games are 7:30 this weekend.
Well, I think I'm going to have two TVs on.
Oh,
I'm going to do the I have a spot where I could put a small TV and a big TV next to each other. So I could have Ohio State on the big TV and the Florida game on the other TV.
Or vice versa, either way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Tell me about Florida.
Yeah, we're playing this weekend, I think.
Yeah.
That's the good news. So here's where we are, just an update on the whole COVID situation. So it looks like yesterday was the first time Florida has practiced since October 13th.
Oof.
So that's a long time to not even be able to go on the field.
Fat and slow, man. They're going to be fat and slow.
They're not going to be either of those things, but I understand what you're saying. So they've had in October I can't wait for October to be over. We had 31 positive cases of COVID for the University of Florida football team in October. Mullen acknowledged the last positive test was Saturday, so we're not that far removed from having positive tests.
Wow.
So this isn't over yet. That's what makes me a little nervous is obviously the people who tested positive on Saturday are not allowed to be on the field. They're not allowed to be they're still being isolated, but that still makes me nervous, man, because that's a couple days ago. That's not far away.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is this did give the coaches a good opportunity to look at this defense, and I don't know what their game plan changed or game planning changed during the last 2 weeks, but I'll tell you what mine did. So I actually did look at some film this week and looked at specifically the defensive line because we can't get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at what does this team need to do to get better on the defensive line. So here's my quick, simple answer. We have Brenton Cox, who transferred from Georgia, and they're playing him on defensive end right now. And he's 6'3", 250. He's a big guy, and his natural position is defensive tackle.
Yeah.
So they're asking him to come out on the defensive end, and he's not getting to the quarterback in that position. He needs to be the bulldozer who gets in the middle, disrupts that offensive line, and allows other people to make plays. And so they need to move him back inside. They need to move Jeremiah Moon, who's a little bit smaller than him, but he's quicker. And he's actually playing inside. He needs to be on the defensive end. They need to switch. I don't know why they don't switch those two guys out. Put Jeremiah Moon on the outside. He's actually getting to the quarterback this year a couple times when they move him into more of a linebacker position. He's getting to the quarterback on a blitz. So he has that speed. He has that ability. Either put him at a linebacker that can blitz or put him at a defensive end and let him get to the quarterback. That is one quick, simple response that I think will make a big difference to this team.
Okay. What are their hands like? Are they – I don't know. I feel like I have been through a defensive end master's class, like you said, with our just because of who are deep. Like everyone talks about Coach Johnson and his defensive techniques and how like you can see them how they swipe their hands against and then put their body and swipe like it's a quick move. And so I look at that's what I look at like a defensive end. Like how are you moving their hands away from yours? What are your hands doing? And is that something that would be coached up?
The Moon can be. Cox cannot. That's just not his strength. He's more of a push the offensive lineman into the running back and quarterback. That's more. He's a strong guy. That's more his gameplay. So I don't know why they're putting him on the outside to begin with. Whereas honestly, Moon doesn't like contact. He likes to run around the offensive line. if possible, or be that second guy to the line to get, where someone else is already blocking, so he's able to get through.
Yeah.
He prefers to not have to make contact, but he can be taught to do that. I believe that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, and they must see something I don't see, because I don't know why they would put them in these positions to begin with. So I don't know what happened in training camp. I don't know what they're planning. I don't know why they're doing it, but I really believe if they switch this around, that Moon can be at his strongest on the outside, put Cox back in the middle, the stopgap guy who's going to get double teamed. And I think it's going to make a big difference for this defense. So we'll see. Overall, from what I'm seeing, is their secondary, they're not as good as they were last year, but of course they lost a top 10 player to the draft and a cornerback. But I do believe that the secondary is doing okay. They're not getting any favors from the defensive line. They're not getting the quarterback. The quarterback has way too much time in all these games. So, and their running defense hasn't been that great either. So, I mean, it's just all around their defense has not been great. But if they can stop the quarterback quicker, or at least pressure the quarterback, give the secondary a chance to, if you give any quarterback 10 seconds, then, I would think most of those quarterbacks are going to find somebody who's open.
Yeah.
So that's my plan.
Okay. I like it. Where do you see Florida's most improvement? Like, do you see it on the defensive line coming off 2-week bye week, or do you see an improvement in linebackers? Where do you see the most improvement coming off of this 2 weeks?
I think that the most improvement is going to be their secondary, based on obviously the other areas have to improve for that to happen as well. But I think that should be their strength, or one of their strengths this year. So I think that's an area that's going to get tightened up. These players are going to get coached up the last 2 weeks, and we're going to see a different team.
Okay. All right. So they have Missouri, 13-point spread. We won't get into who you're picking here because that's for later. But why that seems like a if it were me, I would put the spread. I'm giving away my pick here, but if it were me, I'd put the spread somewhere around the 19 to 20 point range. So why is it such a small spread?
I think they're giving Missouri some credit because they won their last 2 games. They beat LSU and they beat Kentucky after losing to Alabama and Tennessee to start the season. So I think they're saying Missouri's kind of on a winning streak, and Florida's going to be a little rusty. So they're putting those things together, combining that with the fact that the Swamp is not going to be filled, packed. They're not going to pack the house this weekend. So those things combined, I think they're saying it's going to be closer than what I think it typically would have been. If this game had been played on a normal week, I think it would have been a bigger spread.
All right, let's just get into it. I don't know why I was tiptoeing around our picks. Let's just get into it. So we have Ohio State, Penn State. We have 3 games that we're picking this week. Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State's favored by 12.5. Missouri's at Florida. Florida's favored by 13. And Memphis at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is favored by 7, even after the shellacking they put on SMU. So let's get into it. I'll go first with Ohio State, Penn State being kind of the marquee matchup this week, even though it lost kind of its luster because of Indiana, Penn State. And here are my thoughts about Indiana, Penn State before we get into our picks real quick. That was an amazing game. What a fun game to watch. I was trying to give the kids a bath and watch fourth quarter and overtime. And so the kids got ignored a little bit during bath time on Saturday. They were kind of off on their own but they did fine. But so it was – all right, let me just put it up to you, Tim. Why did Penn State lose? Because I think, as far as I'm concerned, Penn State's the better team, and the better team lost on Saturday. Do you feel the same?
I do. I think the reason Penn State lost is because they were, like all the other teams, they're a little rusty. They're coming to this game. They may have been overlooking Indiana a little bit, looking towards this coming week against Ohio State and not anticipating what was going to happen. And then I think because Penn State got down early, Indiana jumped out to an early lead. And then usually when you see those kinds of games, you'll see a team fight back like Penn State did, and they come back, they tie it up, they end up in overtime. Usually when you have momentum like that and you're the better team, you win. Yeah. Whether you're at home or at an empty Indiana stadium, it doesn't matter. Like, they should have won that game at that point. So that's what surprised me the most, is when they came back and still ended up losing. Yeah. So that kind of tells me that they were probably overlooking the game, and they should have won. They were the better team.
Yeah.
And just Indiana wanted it more. They just for them.
Well, Indiana, okay, for Indiana's credit, Indiana is a good team this year, but I think Penn State, at least they should be a great team. But Indiana is a good team. They have an athletic quarterback. They have really good front seven, really good offensive line. And so I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if they have an athletic quarterback. That's what they have going for them. But anyway, James Franklin was outcoached. I don't think there's any way around it. He had 5-minute break after that targeting call to tell his running back or to tell his team, hey, we don't want to score here when we're up by 8. We have the ball on the 14-yard line. We're up by 8 with a minute and a half left. And he didn't tell his team that one time. I strongly believe that this was not a player who made a mental error. This is a coach who did not prepare his team on first and goal at the 14-yard line.
Yeah.
And when Indiana, they said, hey, the only way that we can win this, let them score a touchdown. So the ball snapped, the defense didn't move. So, and then the player was like, yeah. And then it wasn't until he got in the end zone that his coach was screaming at him to get down. Like, this was James Franklin not knowing how to coach in the big moments. And we've seen it time and time again. When they played Ohio State in 2017 or 2018 or whatever, when Chase Young, it was 4th and 1, and McSorley was having the game of his life, and he runs the ball. And Chase Smith is right there to tackle him in the backfield, and Ohio State wins. And you don't put the ball in McSorley's hands there. It's James Franklin does not know how to coach the big games. And if I was Penn State, I would be getting fed up with the fact that whenever it's close, you can almost guarantee Penn State's going to lose because he doesn't know how to coach it. He doesn't know how to coach those big moments.
I agree. It's not even about the big games. It's those big moments in any game. He does not have that ability to be able to focus in, make the right call, tell his players what to do, and coach in those moments. He does not have that ability.
Right. He can recruit. I think he's going to stick around at Penn State because he can recruit and he can get. Penn State is in the top tier of the Big Ten, and I think they're satisfied right there. And he's going to and I mean, who else is out there? I mean, James Franklin is one of the better coaches out there, but when it comes to those big moments, he doesn't know how to coach them, and he cost his team the game on Saturday.
He is a Mark Richt of the Big Ten.
Yeah.
He is a guy you keep around because he's good enough.
Yeah.
And he's going to win 8-9 games a year, and you will get zero hardware. I told you, they are the Georgia of the Big Ten. I told you that last week.
Yep.
It's still true.
Yep. Yeah. And so those are my thoughts. And so now we have Penn State, who's hungry, who is eager. They have to win. This is a save my season kind of game, and they have to win. And so we have Penn State is going up against Ohio State. And I don't know if this is the game that you want to hang your hat on and say this. If we don't win this game, our season is busted, because I think you're going to be disappointed, and the rest of your season is not going to go well if you have that mentality. So Ohio State at Penn State. I'm going Ohio State big here. 2 touchdowns, I think, is a fair victory margin.
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about last week, this is not a typical home field advantage for Penn State either. So that doesn't help them at this point being at home. The 7:30, I think that's also to Ohio State's advantage. So I think overall, Ohio State's going to end up winning this game by 17.
Why is 7:30 an Ohio State advantage? I haven't thought about that.
They seem to play better when they have all day to kind of warm up to it. Like when they had a 12 o'clock kickoff, they're slow to start off. If they have a night game, it seems to be like warm, ready to go as soon as the ball is kicked. Yeah.
Okay. I like it because we have Rutgers again at 7:30 next week. That was just announced. So
that's a scrimmage.
It'll be fun. Greg Schiano always will have a good defense. But yeah, so I think I'm going Ohio State here. Did I get the vibe you're going Ohio State as well?
Oh, yeah. At least, I would say 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
All right. So we have Missouri at Florida. Florida 13, favored by. What do you think, Tim?
I think Florida is going to outscore Missouri. I think their defense will be good enough, and they'll give us some points. Don't get me wrong, but I don't believe Missouri's defense can stop Florida. So I think Florida is going to score probably 42 points in this game and win by a couple touchdowns easily.
Yeah. I agree. Memphis at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 7 against Memphis. We went with this game because Cincinnati's ranked 7th in the country, and they're only favored by 7 against a non-ranked Memphis. And so this is one that kind of stood out to me. Is Memphis better than what we think, or what the national media thinks, at least?
I don't understand where they're getting the rankings for this conference this year. I really don't. I mean, the only loss that Memphis has was to SMU, who they turned around and overhype against Cincinnati, and then underhype Memphis again against Cincinnati. That's what confuses me. I don't know what they're doing with this conference.
Yeah, I don't think they know what to think about this conference.
Right. That might be it. That might be the issue. Because I mean, SMU beat Memphis by a field goal. It wasn't like they blew them out either.
Yeah, and then Cincinnati comes and just demolishes SMU.
Absolutely.
And now they're only favored by 7 against Memphis. So I think it sounds like we're both going in the same direction here. I got Cincinnati on this one easy.
Yeah, I do too. I think Cincinnati's going to win this game by 3 touchdowns. Probably similar to what they did against SMU last week. Maybe a little bit closer than that, but not much.
So we're going to end this week all tied up again, and that's okay. Here's what we have on the line for those who may be new to listen. We've been doing this podcast for 3 years. Tim Jones is up 2-0 on me. He's won both years that we've done this. And so each year the tier goes up. First year, Tim won. I had to buy him a jersey. Year 2, I was supposed to buy him tickets to games this year, but seeing it with the pandemic, I'm not able to do that. And so we've decided that if Tim wins again, I have to fly to Florida, and we both have to go to a Florida game together, and I'll have to buy both tickets. So we're looking at this is a $1,000 bet here at a minimum.
And you get to wear my jersey.
Yeah, because this is what's going to happen. This is going to end up being probably a $5,000 bet because there's no way my family's going to let me go to Orlando without going to Disney. So it's going to be about a $5,000 bet here that if I lose. So I'm really having to stay close. I can't just go, oh, you know what? Let me take Missouri because I want to be different. I can't do that. I have to stick to my gut here. And right now we're all tied up because last week, what was the deciding game? Iowa State, Oklahoma State, won by 3. The spread was 3.5, and I picked Iowa State there. I thought Iowa State was going to win outright, so I'm glad I didn't take anything like that, like I did Georgia.
No, I knew Oklahoma State was going to win. I was just very upset when Iowa State scored a touchdown at the very end, and I was like, wait, what was the spread on that game?
Yeah. Kind of like the Ohio State spread. It was almost like Ryan Day had money on the game because the spread was like 28 points, and he didn't quite have it yet, so he needed to get the touchdown. But no, that's not true. Don't think that what I said was true.
They didn't have the right personnel in the game, Shipe.
Yeah, that's what. Stop. That's what it was. So that's what we have on the line. I still am eager to get my Ohio State jersey. I need a new one. The one I have right now, Beanie Wells, is getting wore out. So I need a new Ohio State jersey. So I'm eager for my tier 1. All right, let's get into it. Who's in? Tim Jones. That number 4 spot has been pretty fluid for me, and once again, it is a new team sitting in my number 4. But who's in yours?
So, not to be lame, but nothing has changed for me this week. I still have. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Go through 1, 2, and 3. Is this in any particular order? Your 1, 2, and 3.
I'm still keeping it in this order: Clemson, okay. Alabama, Ohio State. That's my top 3. Okay.
I have, and mine's in no particular order. I think it's these 3 teams above the rest. I don't. Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. These 3 are the 3 that I don't think they're going to move the entire season. At least I pray they don't move because these are the other 2 teams that I want Ohio State to play. Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama. And so your number 4 is then who?
Oklahoma State.
All right. See, I'm not buying into the Oklahoma State hype. There's not even that much hype around them. Nobody's giving them much credit. What are they? They're ranked 9th or something?
6th.
6th. Mm-hmm. So this is a season that the Pac-10 and the Big 12 are not going to be in the playoff. I strongly believe that the winner of that conference is not going to be. So it's going to either open it up to 2 SEC teams or 2 Big 10 teams, because we all know there's not another ACC team that's going to compete. So it's going to be either 2 Big 10 teams and the one Big 10 team that has a chance now that Penn State's out could be Wisconsin. But it looks like their quarterback Mertz is going to be out for potentially 21 games. They're waiting on his second test to come back. I feel like it should be back by now, and they're just keeping it close. I mean, they don't really have to announce that, do they, to give the other team any advantage?
I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for that.
I don't know either. So they're keeping it pretty close. So we don't know if he's out. I'm going to guess he's out for 3 weeks. And so that opens up Wisconsin to not an easy loss. I mean, I think they're still a good team, but that opens up Wisconsin to lose. So my number 4 is the Bearcats. 2 Ohio teams in the playoff. This opens it up for the best non-Power 5 team, whatever they call them, to be in the playoff this year. And so I like Cincinnati. Cincinnati, they have 2 rushers that have 250 yards rushing this year. Their quarterback and their running back. They have a dynamic offense, and you know that a Luke Fickell coach team is going to have a great defense. So they're going to be a disciplined defense. And so I think Cincinnati's going to run the table, and Cincinnati is my number 4 spot. Now, that number 4 spot has kind of been the kiss of death for teams, so I don't like that, for me at least. It's been a pretty fluid number 4. But I like Cincinnati at that 4 spot. So who's your 5 and 6, Tim?
My 5 and 6 are still Notre Dame and Florida.
And mine as well, yeah.
Let me ask you this, though, with Notre Dame. Let's say, hypothetically, Notre Dame loses to Clemson by a field goal at home, but wins out the rest of the season. Do they have any chance of getting into the playoff because of Notre Dame hype? Strictly on that.
It would be strictly because of Notre Dame hype. If they play Clemson close, then maybe. But then you have to say, does a 1-loss Notre Dame get in to an undefeated Cincinnati? Or does a 1-loss Notre Dame get in over an undefeated Oklahoma State? And I don't think
they do to Oklahoma State, but what about Cincinnati? If it comes down to Notre Dame with 1 loss to Clemson and Cincinnati with their schedule, is anyone going to say, let's put Notre Dame in? The money is there. That's what the committee has to look at. The money is a big factor there.
And I think the money is going to be a bigger factor this year than any other year of college football, because so many teams are hurting. So many schools are hurting, I mean. So on that, man, I don't like it. I think Cincinnati would be more deserving with their schedule. I mean, we just looked at Notre Dame's schedule, and they're playing
ACC. That's a problem.
Yeah, they're playing the ACC. So if they keep it close. Now, if Notre Dame goes head-to-head against Cincinnati, we won't even give a spread, just outright Cincinnati, Notre Dame, who would you pick?
I like to think Cincinnati might beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame hasn't played anybody.
Right.
We talked about this before we started the show. I looked this up. Notre Dame's, their whole schedule this year, the total wins is 7.
Yeah.
Total wins for all the teams that played against Notre Dame this year. 7 wins. That's terrible.
Disgusting. Yeah. And honestly, I think that's why Notre Dame's not getting any love. I mean, they're an undefeated Power 5 team who is, what are they ranked? 6th, you said?
4.
Oh, are they ranked 4?
Yeah.
Oh, they're getting way too much love then. They should be 9. I think they're the ninth best team. But see this, okay, this is another area. So this is where, you gauge how good a team is kind of by the expectations going into it, right? And this is what I talked about last week, and things that Joel Klatt talked about last week is, I say, boy, Notre Dame's terrible. But everyone's expectation of Notre Dame is that they should be one of the top teams in the country. And so, yes, I think Notre Dame, it's right to say that Notre Dame is terrible because the expectations for them should be higher than what they're reaching. So
sure.
That's why I say, yes, Notre Dame is not a good team. And I think that's okay.
So Urban Meyer next year, Notre Dame, yes?
I think – so here's my dream scenario, and we're probably going over time here, but here's my dream scenario. I want Cincinnati to play Notre Dame in a bowl game. That's what I want to happen, even though I think Cincinnati now – who knows? I don't know if Cincinnati's going to be in the Final Four, but I think that they would be the most deserving team if they go undefeated to be in the Final Four. But I want Cincinnati to play Notre Dame, and I want Cincinnati, the team that Brian Kelly left for Notre Dame, to beat them in a bowl game. That would be a good game.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So that, and then if that happens, then maybe the whispers of Urban Meyer start trickling in.
All right.
Yeah,
that's good. That's a good storyline. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, let's make that happen. You know what else we need to make happen? We got to end this show. We have to close this out. Say farewell to our faithful listeners, and thank you all so much for joining us, for listening to our show today. Buckeye football is back. Football is basically in full swing because who needs a Pac-10 anyway? So football is back in full swing, and it was a really exciting weekend of football, and I'm looking forward to another exciting weekend with the 7:30 kickoff of Ohio State. Tim Jones, have a great week, bud. It's always a pleasure, and thank you all so much, and thank you to our sponsors, and we'll catch you next week.
Go Gators.